Hello my dear doctors, welcome back. And now after completing the abdominal aorta as well as the celiac trunk, now we have to learn about the superior mesenteric artery as well as the inferior mesenteric artery. If you people remember the concept that I told you, in the abdominal aorta we are getting the branches from everywhere like ventral branches, dorsal branches as well as the lateral branches. Out of them there will be like three ventral branches. The artery that is supplying to the foregut will be celiac trunk. The artery that is supplying to the midgut will be the superior mesenteric artery, and to the hindgut it will be inferior mesenteric artery. Now out of the three of them, we have completed the celiac trunk perfectly with the help of a beautiful diagram over there. And now let us learn about superior mesenteric artery. Now I don't have to tell you the introductory points regarding this one, you already know about that. Number one, superior mesenteric artery, it will be given at the level of L1. The superior mesenteric artery will be at the level of L1. Number two, remember, it is the artery which will be supplying to your midgut. So it is the artery of midgut. It is the artery of midgut. Fine. So it is given at L1. It is actually a ventral branch of the abdominal aorta. And yes, of course, it is the artery which is supplying to the midgut. Now, the most important thing is what are the branches given by superior mesenteric artery? Let's see all the branches given by this one here. Now, if you look at this diagram here, this will be the textbook diagram. Like there's so many arteries over there. If you look at this diagram at once, you'll get confused how to remember. I'll tell you one simple method how to remember all these branches over here. So let's draw our diagram here right now. So to begin with, first of all, let's draw the diagram of midgut here. Imagine this one here to be the cecum, and this one here will be the appendix. And in continuation from here, this will be the colon. Of course, it is ascending colon. And then you'll be able to appreciate the transverse colon over here. And then this one here will be the descending colon, followed by the sigmoid colon and the rectum. So ascending colon here, and then the transverse colon here, and then the descending colon, and then sigmoid as well as the rectum over here. Now imagine this one here to be your duodenum, and duodenum actually has got like four parts here. So this one here will be the first part of the duodenum, then the second part, and the third part and fourth part of the duodenum. Now in the C-shaped concavity of the duodenum, there will be pancreas present over here. And you can very clearly see in my diagram, actually I'm drawing in dotted lines over there. Why? Because remember that will be present behind the transverse colon. If you have to see that duodenum as well as the pancreas clearly, the transverse colon has to be lifted up. It will be lifted up and then we'll be able to see it completely. Now after the duodenum, there will be like long coils of jejunum and the ileum over here. There will be a long coils of jejunum and ileum, but actually I'm not drawing them. If you draw all those coils of jejunum and the ileum over here, our diagram will become very much cluttered. So we are not drawing here. Let us just imagine that finally the last part of the ileum, the terminal ileum, is going to, yes, end in the cecum over there. So perfectly done. By this our diagram is ready. And now welcome to the hero of the story over here. And the hero of the story here is the superior mesenteric artery. Superior mesenteric artery is the one which will be supplying to your entire midgut. Now you just imagine the superior mesenteric artery here. Actually, this is like our schematic diagram. Don't try to measure our diagram. Why? Because superior mesenteric artery, if you want to be like, very specific about that one, that is given at the level of L1 only. So if it is given at the level of L1, then what is going to happen? The superior mesenteric artery is coming in front of or anterior to uncinate process. The uncinate process of the pancreas over here. And then it is coming anterior to the third part of the duodenum. So right in front of the uncinate process here, and then right in front of the third part of the duodenum, it is coming out. So I'm not drawing right from over there. I'm just, representing it schematically over here. Superior mesenteric artery. Now our intention mainly here is to learn the branches right now in the class itself. Okay. Now what are all the branches given by superior mesenteric artery? Let us learn them in a conceptual manner. Now the best way to learn them is just walk along the midgut. If you just go along the midgut, you'll be automatically getting all the branches given by superior mesenteric artery. Now I told you already, the midgut will be extending from where to where? The midgut is going to begin from the second part of duodenum, and then it is going to include all the remaining parts of duodenum, then jejunum, ileum, cecum, ascending colon as well as transverse colon. But not the complete transverse colon, only the right 2/3 of the transverse colon, or we can say the proximal 2/3 of the transverse colon. So midgut is going to extend from second part of the duodenum up to the right 2/3 of the transverse colon. And now we are going to just walk along this midgut and automatically you'll be getting all the branches given by superior mesenteric artery. Now first of all, let's see the first branch over here. The moment the superior mesenteric artery is going to begin, it is going to give a branch over here. And this branch you can clearly appreciate there, it is between the duodenum and the pancreas. So therefore, of course, what is the name of this artery here? This one here will be the pancreatico-duodenal artery. And this time this is present below. So therefore, this one will be the inferior pancreatico-duodenal artery. So I'm just putting a star mark and I'm writing here, this one will be the inferior pancreatico-duodenal artery. Inferior pancreatico-duodenal artery. Remember, it is a branch of superior mesenteric artery. Don't get confused there. Inferior pancreatico-duodenal artery, it is a branch of superior mesenteric artery. Number one. Now, by this you can clearly see that the remaining parts of duodenum and the pancreas will be taken care here. Fine. Now let us take our journey ahead. I told you, walk along the midgut. Now once the duodenum is done, now we are left out with the long coils of jejunum and the long coils of ileum. Now my dear doctors, please remember that superior mesenteric artery is going to give rise to many branches to jejunum, and there will be like many branches given to the ileum, because there will be like long coils of jejunum and ileum. And thank God, the names of these arteries is like damn easy. The arteries which are actually supplying to jejunum will be referred to as jejunal arteries. These will be the jejunal arteries over here. And the arteries which are supplying to ileum will be referred to as the ileal arteries. They'll be like ileal arteries. Done. So to the jejunum, there'll be jejunal arteries, and to the ileum, there'll be ileal arteries. I think this is the easiest part. Now, once you are done with the ileum, now comes the turning wala part. I mean to say, from the small intestine into the large intestine. And this is like something very nice over here. I love this point here. Look at the name of this artery. There will be an artery which will be supplying to this entire turning part over here. Now, what do you mean by this turning part? Remember, this artery is actually taking care of, number one, the terminal part of the ileum, and then it is also supplying to the cecum, and then appendix, as well as it is also supplying to the starting part of the colon. I mean to say, it is supplying to that entire turning part, the terminal part of the ileum, then cecum, appendix, and the starting part of the colon. And that is the reason why doctors have kept a beautiful name here. This artery is referred to as the ileocolic artery. Be very careful, don't say it is cecal. It is not ileocecal artery, it is actually ileocolic artery, from the ileum towards the colon, ileocolic artery. Now, this ileocolic artery, of course, it is the one which is supplying to the cecum as well as appendix also. So please observe this very carefully here. It will be giving a branch. Now, this artery will be actually giving a branch here, and this branch here will be giving, yes, further branches to the cecum. That too, one branch will be going anteriorly and another branch is going posteriorly over here. And of course, this will be the cecal arteries. As well as the same ileocolic artery is also giving a branch to appendix also, and that will be referred to as the appendicular artery. So from here, what I am trying to put in your mind is that ileocolic artery in turn will be giving the branches to cecum here. So therefore, this one here will be the cecal artery. And then it is also giving the branches to appendix here, and therefore this will be the appendicular arteries. That will be the appendicular artery. Perfectly done. So there will be like anterior and posterior cecal artery, as well as to the appendix there will be appendicular artery, and these two are actually the branches given by ileocolic artery only. Done. And now we have almost come up to colon. Please don't forget the trick I told you. The trick here is that how to remember the branches given here. Just walk along the midgut. Automatically you're getting the branches. So in the midgut we have come all the way up to the colon, and now we have to learn what is the arteries which will be supplying to the colon. And this is the easiest one, I'm telling you, easiest one. Okay, just look at me here. Ascending colon will be supplied by the right colic artery. Similarly, the transverse colon is supplied by middle colic artery. And finally, the descending colon is supplied by left colic artery. It's as easiest as possible. Okay, so you're having like ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon. The ascending colon is supplied by right colic artery. Transverse colon is supplied by middle colic artery, and descending colon is supplied by left colic artery. Fine. So therefore, my dear friends, superior mesenteric artery will also give a branch, and this branch will go here, and it will be supplying to ascending colon. That is the reason why this one here will be the right colic artery. I'm just writing R here. R here stands for the right colic artery. Perfect. And then similarly, the superior mesenteric artery will also supply to the transverse colon here. The transverse colon here, I'm just writing M here, and this M here stands for middle colic artery. Middle colic artery, that's all. And finally, we have come all the way up to the transverse colon, and by this, the midgut is done. And by this, all the branches given by the superior mesenteric artery are completed over here. So the best trick here is just walk along the midgut, you'll be getting all the branches. And now, my dear friends, let us just quickly summarize here so that you'll be able to remember that very well. So what are the branches given by superior mesenteric artery? Superior mesenteric artery is the hero of the story here. It is going to supply to the entire midgut. Fine. Now what are the branches? Start from the midgut. Now number one, it will be giving the inferior pancreatico-duodenal artery. Now once the duodenum is done, then jejunum is supplied by jejunal arteries. And then ileum will be supplied by ileal arteries. And then the turning part will be supplied by ileocolic artery. And that itself will be giving the branches to cecum as well as appendix also. And then ascending colon is supplied by right colic artery. And then the transverse colon is supplied by middle colic artery. And all these are actually the branches given by superior mesenteric artery. I think this is the best way to learn all the branches given by the superior mesenteric artery instead of just writing like a list and mugging up with that mnemonics like ABCD and all. No need to do that, my dear friends. Just draw this diagram once or twice and you will never ever forget in your lifetime. Okay. Now let us do one thing. Let us cross check all these branches over here in this diagram. So in this diagram, first of all, you're able to appreciate the superior mesenteric artery over here. The moment it is going to begin, it is giving a branch here, and this branch here will be the inferior pancreatico-duodenal artery. Then after that, it is giving like many branches here to the jejunum and the ileum here. Fine. And these branches will be the jejunal arteries as well as the ileal arteries. Finally, the turning part here. At the turning part, you'll be able to find that ileocolic artery. Fine. And that itself is giving you the branches to the cecum, that is your anterior and posterior cecal artery as well as appendicular artery. Ascending colon will be taken care by the right colic artery, and transverse colon is taken care by middle colic artery. Perfectly done. So that is the reason why I always insist that please draw our simple diagram here, and of course the things will become very much easier. And now we are left out with the last and final part. We are done with the foregut, which is supplied by celiac trunk. We are done with the midgut, which is taken care by superior mesenteric artery. And now we are left out with the hindgut, and that will be taken care by the inferior mesenteric artery, and that is the easiest one. First, let us do again in the same manner. Let's draw our diagram first, then we'll cross check with the textbook wala diagram. Now, what is included under the hindgut? It will be including the transverse colon, but only the distal 1/3, and then the descending colon, and then the sigmoid colon and the rectum. The transverse colon, descending colon, sigmoid colon, and then the rectum over here. All this will be included under the hindgut. Now the artery which will be supplied to the hindgut will be the inferior mesenteric artery. That is the hero of the story here. So this one here will be the inferior mesenteric artery. I don't even have to tell you it is given at which level. You know that very well. It is a branch of abdominal aorta. Of course, the ventral branch of abdominal aorta, and that is given at the level of L3. And it is the artery which is supplying to your entire hindgut. We know that very well. Now it is so easy. You yourself can guess here. You yourself can tell the names of all these arteries. First of all, it will be giving a branch, and that branch will be supplying to the descending colon. If it is to the descending colon, of course, it has to be the left colic artery. I'm just writing L here, and this one here will be the left colic artery. Then inferior mesenteric artery is also giving rise to a branch along this sigmoid colon. It will be giving like many arteries here along the sigmoid colon. So this one here will be the sigmoidal arteries. Thank God the names are very much simple here. Sigmoidal arteries. And finally, what is going to happen? The inferior mesenteric artery itself will actually continue and supply to the rectum also. And this one here will be the superior rectal artery. Please concentrate on the words that I told you here. It is going to continue as superior rectal artery. This itself is also an important question here. The inferior mesenteric artery, what is happening? Finally, it is going to continue as which artery? It itself is going to continue as the superior rectal artery. So in this manner, these are all the branches which are given by inferior mesenteric artery here. So inferior mesenteric artery will first give rise to the left colic artery, then sigmoidal arteries, and then finally it is going to continue as the superior rectal arteries, my dear friend. That's all. These are all the branches given by the inferior mesenteric artery to the hindgut. Now let us just cross check these branches over here. Now in this diagram, you are able to appreciate here, this one will be the inferior mesenteric artery here, which is the ventral branch of the abdominal aorta given at the level of L3. Then number one, you are able to appreciate here the left colic artery, which is supplied to the descending colon, and there are like many sigmoidal arteries, and finally it itself is going to continue down here as the superior rectal artery. Superior rectal artery. Perfectly done. I think out of all the three branches, that is celiac trunk, superior mesenteric artery and inferior mesenteric artery, this is the easiest one, my dear friend. Now once we are done with all that, the foregut, midgut and hindgut, their blood supply is done. Now my dear friends, let us see one important concept here, that is the marginal artery of Drummond. What is the meaning of this one? Now you can very clearly see in this diagram, you are able to appreciate the ascending colon here, and then the transverse colon here, and the descending colon. And on the inner margin of the colon, what is going to happen? All these arteries together, they are going to form anastomosis, and then they are going to form a margin, and that margin is referred to as marginal artery of Drummond. Now let us draw our diagram here, and we'll first of all see which arteries are going to form the marginal artery of Drummond, and then I'll tell you the important application also. There's one clinical application here about the Griffith's points. I'll tell you about that one here. Now again, let us draw the same diagram here, my dear friends. For example, if this one here will be your cecum and appendix, this one here will be the ascending colon, and then there will be transverse colon, and then there will be descending colon here. And then of course you'll be having the sigmoid colon rectum. So there will be ascending colon, and then there will be transverse colon, and then there will be descending colon, sigmoid colon in the rectum here. Of course, the ileum will come and end into this one here. Now, first of all, I told you the midgut is supplied by superior mesenteric artery. So imagine this one here to be the superior mesenteric artery. Now, superior mesenteric artery, it is giving a branch to this turning point here from the small intestine into the large intestine. Now already just now I taught you about all these arteries. Now you don't wait for me. You try to tell the names by yourself. That will give you like more confidence. Okay. So you yourself try to tell the names of these arteries over here. So superior mesenteric artery will give rise to a branch which is supplied to the turning part. I told you from the ileum, it is going towards the colon. So this one here will be the ileocolic artery. I'm just writing here as IC, ileocolic artery. Then the same superior mesenteric artery will also supply to this ascending colon over here. An ascending colon is supplied by right colic artery. And then same superior mesenteric artery will also supply to the transverse colon here. And this one here will be the middle colic artery. That is a middle colic artery. Perfectly done. So till here it will be midgut, and that will be taken care by the superior mesenteric artery. Now after this, the remaining part, the hindgut, is taken care by inferior mesenteric artery. Now imagine this one here to be your inferior mesenteric artery. And that will be giving the branch to descending colon here. And this one here will be the left colic artery. Descending colon is supplied by left colic artery. And then inferior mesenteric artery will also give like one more branch that will be supplying to sigmoid colon. This one here will be the sigmoidal artery. I'm just writing S here, sigmoidal artery. Now all these arteries, you can clearly appreciate here, my dear friends, they are going to form a complete margin here. And this margin is actually referred to as the marginal artery of Drummond. It is referred to as marginal artery of Drummond. Now what is going to happen here? These arteries will give rise to like small arteries here. That is the reason why they are able to supply to the entire colon here. And these small arteries here are referred to as your arcuate arteries. So they will be supplying to this entire colon over here with the help of this arcuate arteries over here. So remaining arteries, whatever I wrote you the short forms there, you already know the full form of that one. No need to write the names again here. And now please remember these arteries over here, they are referred to as the arcuate arteries. They are referred to as arcuate arteries here. Done. Now in this manner, what is going to happen? The uniform blood supply to your entire colon will be maintained. And this entire thing is going to form your marginal artery of Drummond. So by the way, marginal artery of Drummond is formed by which arteries here? Let us just try to recall what are the arteries forming the marginal artery of Drummond. Number one, ileocolic artery, then the right colic artery, then middle colic artery, the left colic artery, as well as the sigmoidal artery. So all these arteries are the one which are going to form the marginal artery of Drummond. Now I'll tell you one problem here. What is the clinical application here? Now, what is going to happen here? Please observe this region very much carefully here, my dear friends. I'm going to say this part here. Now, that is a place where the middle colic artery as well as the left colic artery, middle colic artery and left colic artery, they are not going to form the proper anastomosis there. There will be no proper anastomosis. That anastomosis will be actually compromised there. In almost 5% of the population across the world will be suffering with this one. Now, just try to understand here, 5% of population in the entire world, it's a huge number. And in those many people, if the blood is not supplied to this turning part of the colon, if this flexure of the colon, if the blood is not supplied, of course, it will undergo necrosis there. So is it happening like that? Is it happening that in 5% of the population in the world, that entire colon is undergoing necrosis? Absolutely no. No. God has made our body in a well-planned manner. It's not happening like that. Now, the first point that you have to remember here is that this point is referred to as Griffith point. This point is actually referred to as Griffith's point. So Griffith's point is the place where the anastomosis between the middle colic artery and the left colic artery is actually compromised, so there's no proper blood supply. Now, but what is the solution for this one? The solution for this one is that God has given one additional artery between the middle colic artery and the left colic artery. Middle colic artery and left colic artery, so as to maintain the blood circulation here. Wow, understand the nature, how beautifully our body is made here. Okay, now this additional artery which is given here, this artery will be known as arc of Riolan. So this artery will be referred to as arc of Riolan. So arc of Riolan is between the middle colic artery and the left colic artery. So please remember, the arc of Riolan is between middle colic artery and left colic artery. Done. So that is a compensation at the Griffith's point over there. Now, one more point I'll tell you what is going to happen here. There is one more point referred to as the Sudek's point. Where do you find that one? That will be present at the junction where you have the sigmoid colon and the rectum. The recto-sigmoidal junction. Fine. So let me just mark this here. This one I'm telling you about. Now, this one here will be the recto-sigmoidal junction. Recto-sigmoidal junction. And at this junction, what is going to happen? At this junction, there will be no arcuate arteries sometimes. No arcuate arteries over here. And this point is actually referred to as the Sudek's point. This point is referred to as Sudek's point. So basically, you have to remember these 2 points here for the clinical application, my dear friends. One is your Griffith point, another one will be the Sudek's point here. The Sudek's point will be finding at the recto-sigmoidal junction, where you will be normally not finding the arcuate arteries over there. That will be absent over there. And by this, my dear friends, we are also done with the concept of marginal artery of Drummond, along with the 2 important clinical applications over here about the Sudek's point and the Griffith point. And by this, actually, we have completed the entire arterial system here in the abdomen. First of all, I started from the abdominal aorta. I told you about all the branches given by the abdominal aorta, like ventral, dorsal and lateral branches. And then we have discussed about the ventral branches in detail, that is celiac trunk supplying to foregut, superior mesenteric arteries supplying to the midgut, and inferior mesenteric arteries supplying to the hindgut. So in this manner, if you're observing properly here, in one go, we have actually completed the entire arterial system in the abdomen here. So in this manner, my dear friends, even in the exams, for all the visceral organs also, now you yourself can actually decide what is the blood supply, and you can actually go in a retrograde manner, that artery is actually coming from where. So instead of learning in a very cluttered manner here and there, randomly, we have clubbed all the arteries at one place and completed here. Now once the arterial system is done, let us see all the veins in the abdomen here. And by this, we are done with this session over here. Thank you. All the best.